Cheers. What was it like being on board the Millennium Falcon?
I'll be honest with you, just like I talked about before, that kind of looping back moment where I was like, there was a moment where, you know, the reason I made Tusk was because I felt the same thing about, I got to make Clerks. Similar thing happened when I was on the Millennium Falcon. I went to, for those that don't know, when I was in England last week, J.J. Abrams invited me to go to the set of Episode 7, the new Star Wars movie. So he had sent me an email out of the blue while they were shooting in Abu Dhabi last month. And he said, hey, man, how are you? I've been thinking about you. We're started shooting the movie. If you're ever going to be over in England, why don't you come by the set? And I was like, I am coming to England in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I would love to come by the set. And he was like, great, I'm going to set you up with Morgan, my assistant. She'll give you all the details. Can't wait to see you and stuff. And then I realized, like I said to Jen, my wife, I was just like, J.J. Abrams invited me to the set, to Episode 7. And she's like, are you and J.J. really that tight? And I thought about it, and I was like, I've known J.J. over the years and stuff, and we've been very friendly, and I've watched his movies early on a few occasions and stuff. He's come on to shows that I've hosted. He's been to my house. I've been to his events. But I never thought of us as like friends. And she put that thought in my head. And suddenly I was like, oh, shit, maybe he thinks I'm someone else. So I wrote him an email where I said, looking forward to the visit, but just want to throw this out there, just in case you hit Kevin in your email address book and it was the wrong Kevin. This is Kevin Smith, the guy who made Clerks. You do know that, right? And J.J. Abrams sent an email back, said, oh, fuck. So I went to the set. We did 2 shows in England, and then we had a day down, and I went to the set. And when you get there, it's at Pinewood Studios, where they made the Superman movies when I was younger, the Batman movies, Batman Returns, Batman, Tim Burton Batman, all the James Bond movies, all the Carry On films, a lot of movies they've shot at Pinewood, very historic. Pull up at the gates, a big banner on one of the buildings says EP7, now shooting EP7. So, you know, a little kid in my heart was just like, right on, Star Wars. And that's the important part of this journey, man. When the dude says, hey, do you want to come to the set? I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. I said, oh, fuck yeah, as Kevin Smith, as this guy, as the guy who stands on stage is like, I love movies, I love comics and all that shit. The person that I've been for like 20 years now publicly. That's who said yes to that invitation. Magical thing is what happens when I got there, that fucker went away, man. He disappeared, and I went further back to a Kevin Smith that I haven't seen in a long time. Like, the Kevin Smith that most people know is really a product of a bunch of friends. Like, Jason Mewes informed my personality. Brian Johnson, Walter Flanagan informed my personality. Prior to meeting those cats, I wasn't really the same person. I was a little kid who fucking loved Star Wars and wondered if there was anyone in the world who felt and thought the way I did. So as I pull up onto the set, it's as a filmmaker. It's as a guy who's like, yeah, I've seen behind the camera, behind the scenes many times. I know how the sausage is made, so you can't really impress me that much anymore. And there are things that I love, like a friend of mine is playing Batman, and I can't wait to see that movie. And when I saw a picture of him in the suit, I got all weak-kneed and stuff. I was happy. But it wasn't a feeling of childlike wonder. Like when the episode 1, 2, and 3 came out, I saw those in a theater first day. So one of them I saw early and whatnot. And I enjoyed them, but I said many times, like, I went into that movie completely different. When I was a kid, I loved the Star Wars movies. They were my fucking religion, you know? But when I was an adult, I didn't expect to enjoy episode 1, 2, and 3 the same way. They're kids' movies, and I was no longer a kid. So I can appreciate them for being well-made and continuations of stories that I loved as a kid, but it was never going to hit me the same way that Star Wars did. And that's something I said repeatedly and absolutely believed, and I still believe that to this day. So when people are like, how could you like episode 1, 2, and 3? I was like, I can appreciate it. Even though Jar Jar's in it, I could still appreciate it, man. Like, I sat next to a kid watching that movie, and that kid fucking loved Jar Jar. So I can't sit there and be like, Jar Jar should die. You know, it's like that character worked for who he was intended for. But when I went to the set, something else happened. It's fucking magical. Get into the Lucasfilm office where you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which says you're not going to say what you saw. So I can't tell you exactly what I saw. We'll work around it. Sign that. There's a poster hanging on the wall right there, and it shows an Imperial Starship commander in uniform going like this. And it says, loose lips sink starships. So they want you to not talk about what you see. And I said, this is awesome. And his assistant, Morgan, goes, JJ hung that up for you. Shh. So it's like, I got it. So we go to the set, and they're actually shooting. And they're shooting, and this is what I can't tell you what they were shooting, but what I saw I absolutely loved. And it was tactile. It was real. It wasn't a series of fucking green screens and blue screens in which later on digital characters would be added. It was there. It was happening. I saw old friends that I haven't seen since my childhood, who aren't really friends, but I love them more than some of my fucking relatives. I saw uniforms. I saw artillery that I haven't seen since I was a kid. I saw them shooting an actual sequence in a set that is real. Like, I walked across the set. There were explosions. It was and it looked like a shot right out of a fucking Star Wars movie, man. I watched him do it like 4 times, standing there next to JJ. I was like, man, good for you. You're doing it. And I was still clinical at this point. It was still filmmaker Kevin Smith going, this is smart. You've got everything everybody loves in the movie, so it connects right back to our childhood. You're doing it justice, man. You're avoiding any mistakes. Like, you're doing a great job. This is a fucking Star Wars movie. Everyone's going to see, oh, blah, blah, blah. But it's still clinical. It's not here yet. It's working its way here, but it's still here on the level of like, this is a very smart decision. This is going to work better than the last ones. And then JJ says to Morgan, his assistant, he goes, take Kevin to Stage M. And I said, oh, I know it's on Stage M. Because I seen online. That's the only reason I could talk about the Millennium Falcon, is because people put up pictures online, said the Millennium Falcon's being built. So it's been out there. So they took me to Stage M. There's a guy who opened the door for us, and she was like, can you turn on the lights? And he was like, right on, hold on. And he turns the lights on, and there's the Millennium Falcon from my childhood. Now, it's the outside looks like a movie set, but inside, fully replicated, fully built. The guy told me they took 2 blueprints, Star Wars and Empire, because the cockpit in Empire, never knew this before, cockpit in Empire was bigger than the cockpit in Star Wars. So they went somewhere between the two. So he takes me over, and I'm just looking at it. You could look at it from the outside. You could still see inside, and I don't presume we're going aboard or anything. And then Morgan says, you ready to go up? And I said, we can go on it? And she said, yeah. And I said, right on. And I'm still clinical at this point. I'm still like, I'm going to step on the Millennium Falcon set. And I did. I stepped on the Millennium Falcon set, and my foot went on the landing ramp, and 10 years dropped off my life. Suddenly, all that shit, Jersey Girl, Cop Out, Red State, gone. Took another fucking step, another 10 years drop off my life. Now I'm in Clerks country. I take another step, I'm a fucking 18-year-old again. I take another step, 12. Take another step, I'm fucking 9 years old when Empire Strikes Back comes out. And I'm only halfway up the bridge. And then when I get to my fucking last step, man, 7. I'm 7 years old, standing on the ramp of the Millennium Falcon, and all the shit that I thought about myself and know about myself to be true, and everything that I project as Kevin Smith was fucking gone, and I just started crying. I was connected to my childhood in such a primal way, and I wasn't even stoned. Imagine how much better it would have been if I was baked. So as I walked up that ramp, I realized something was missing from those other movies, and it's now in these movies. And it's not the obvious of like, hey, the Millennium Falcon, or hey, the characters that we know that are returning. It's something else entirely. He's building a tactile world, a world you can touch, and he's replicating it with all the love of somebody that has the world's greatest collection of Star Wars figures. And when you walk on that set, man, I don't know how else to describe it except thusly, to use another pop culture reference to describe this pop culture phenomenon. It is like the Field of Dreams, the Kevin Costner movie. And if JJ builds it, we're all going to come hard because it's amazing. It looks fantastic. So anybody who's sitting there wondering like, oh, I wonder if he's going to pull it off, he's pulling it off. He showed me cut scenes, showed me sequences, images, pictures, like, I cried, dude. I cried and I hugged that guy. And I'm sure as I was crying on him and hugging him, he's like, time is money, you know, because they're making a movie. But he got it. He was very flattered. And I was like, honestly, dude, like, you're doing it. You're making my childhood again. Like, you're doing Star Wars, our Star Wars. So what I saw blew me away. I was, up until then, like, the movie I couldn't wait to see, of course, Superman, Batman versus Superman. Number 1, I love Batman. Number 2, I know the guy playing Batman this time. And, you know, Fat Man. But that just took second place. Suddenly, like, the guy who was like, yeah, Star Wars, I liked that as a kid. That dude now is this dude who's like, Star Wars still means the world to me. I don't know why. You know, it shouldn't. I've seen behind the curtain. I know how movies are made. but yet that mythology like called out to me. It was like being a lapsed Catholic walking into the Sistine Chapel and suddenly remembering everything from your childhood, all those prayers, all those songs and shit like that, but in a good way. I don't like church, but I love Star Wars. So yeah, if he captures just 10% of the feeling that I had by putting my foot on the deck of the ship, now we all ain't gonna get the chance to do that, walk on the Millennium Falcon. But if he captures just 10% of what I felt, they're going to make $1 gazillion. It'll be the top-grossing film of all time because it's old home. It's seeing everybody you want to see again in a brand new adventure moving forward. I can't.
Kevin Smith has been talking recently about his experience on the set of Star Wars Episode 7.
I heard a little bit of this on Babylon.
Yeah.
But what I do with podcasts is then I immediately fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I often get the intro, the first 5 minutes. Babylon's a great one.
You get the Squarespace ad.
The Babylon's a good one because they'll come out and he'll be like, New Jersey, it's Friday night, whatever. Hey. Yeah. Fat Kev Smith and Ralph Carpenter will be like, hey. And I don't even get to like
the first segment. Yeah.
Garmi's bag, what is it? Ain't no drug. Garmin's got an email bag. I very rarely get to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it depends if... For people who haven't heard Kevin Smith's podcasts, he calls them smodcasts, and you can get them on smodcast.
Why? Where does that come from?
Smith Mosier.
Hello.
Kevin Smith, Scott Mosier. Yeah.
I like Scott Mosier.
I like Scott Mosier a lot. But I
feel like he just has a very nice life.
Yeah.
Because nobody will... I don't think I'd spot him in the street.
No.
I couldn't really tell you what he looks like.
Well... I could.
But could you spot him, or could you go, that really looks like Scott Mosier?
Yeah, I would say that looks a lot... Especially since I live in Nuneaton, in England.
Well, yeah, I mean... But he does what he enjoys doing.
Yeah.
And hangs around with his friends for money.
Yeah. And he also seems to... We are sucking the dick of Scott Mosier a little bit here.
It's alright, he sucks our dick on podcast every week. He does all the time,
yeah. Just by doing a podcast. But he also seems to just live a good life in that he does a lot of activities. He goes on hikes and stuff like that and meditates, all these good things. Probably just lives a nice life.
Yeah.
Shout out to Scott Mosier if you're listening.
That's what money and happiness will do for you.
Yeah, money. But anyway, Kevin Smith recently released episode, I want to say 304, let me just check. Episode 304 of Smodcast, which is called The Musk of Tusk. And that was the live recording of his Comic-Con panel, where they debuted the Tusk trailer. And he tells the story of going on the Episode 7 set, the Star Wars Episode 7 set.
How did he get in?
He was emailed by J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams just emailed him and said, would you like to go on the set? I imagine probably because J.J. Abrams knows that he's got a big voice and he goes on podcasts and stuff. But that's neither here nor there. The first place that I heard him talk about the experience was he did this talk in Neuchatel in Switzerland. There was
in Switzerland?
Yeah, there was like a film... There's some sort of film festival in Switzerland in Neuchatel. And he gave a talk, and it was like Kevin Smith's masterclass or something. And I was just on Facebook, and there was a link, and it was posted like 8 minutes ago. And it said, this live stream is about to start, so I just watched it. And he talked about Star Wars Episode 7. This was about a month ago. And I would just recommend that people listen to it. I'll probably link to it somehow. But he tells this great story about how he stepped onto the set, and he went onto the Millennium Falcon, and it felt like he was transported back in time to his childhood, and he feels reinvigorated with the magic of movies and stuff like that, and how they're making this tactile Star Wars.
How are they doing it? What's the... I've said it before, I enjoy Star Wars, but I don't follow it religiously.
You're not a Star Wars fan, let's say.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. If it's on television, it'll be like, yes, put it on, leave it on.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that's like every certain amount of months I'm like, yes, I need to watch it. I haven't watched it in ages.
Yeah.
I couldn't recount the plot of any of them, or even the whole franchise thus far of them. But
I don't think most fans could, though, because it's very complicated. It's very convoluted.
But it's always just enjoyable.
Yeah, it is just enjoyable.
And I'm in that position where I don't want that to not be the case.
How do you mean?
I don't want to try and push it.
Oh no, yeah, I see.
Because I think we said it last week. Like Star Wars is really in it at the minute because nerd culture is bigger than it's maybe ever been.
Definitely.
And Star Wars episode 7,
yeah,
is next year.
Yeah.
So if there's any time to be a Star Wars fan, it's right now.
Yeah.
And so people are talking about it everywhere on hit podcasts like TLDR, on hit internet websites like tfcpodcast.com.
Yeah.
And so a part of me is like, well, I should just download or buy all of them and just watch them in order and get it all in gear and then do that. But I feel like that would ruin a sort of quite nice relationship I have with the films. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think we live in such an immediate world where it feels like a film is no longer relevant as soon as it's out on DVD. Whereas really, you can go back to something from like 10 years ago and just discover it for the first time. I always feel really pressured when something comes out when it's like hugely culturally relevant and enough people recommend it. I feel so pressured that I just don't watch it until about 6 years down the line, and then I'll watch it and be like, "Oh, this is actually great," and then tweet about it. Who else knew that this is a great film?